My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. All right, welcome back to another episode here. Today, we're going to dig into a topic on can't stop, won't stop attitude. And you probably have heard that little phrase, can't stop, won't stop, or some iteration of it. And I'm going to dive into this pretty deep here in this podcast today. This is something that when you have this mindset of can't stop, won't stop, nothing gets in your way. Everything you do is moving you forward towards what you want. And you will never take no for an answer. And when it comes specifically to your health, you're never going to stop on this journey. I think one of the fallacies I see time and time again is a woman will just settle. She will just settle for, oh, I had some kids, therefore this is the way I look. Or, I turned 40, I turned 50, and insert this disease, this ailment. Or have you ever experienced an injury that maybe set you back? And then you just throw your hands up in the air and say, this is as good as it gets. I've seen this so many times in women, and it frustrates the daylights out of me because most women don't realize, A, it is possible, but you've got to be willing to do the work, and it's not that far away. And it's honestly not that hard. The problem is we tell ourselves a story over and over and over again that life's tough, things are hard, I can't do this, I don't deserve to have X, Y, and Z. Whether you're actually saying these words or not, there's some version of that lurking inside. And so today I want to just peel all this back, strip it away, and I want to empower you that here's what you want instead. And this is why this is so dang important to go for the things that you want in life. Starting first with your body. It is possible. Whatever you desire, it is possible. So we're going to dig into why the heck do we need this mindset? Then what beliefs do we have that are holding us back? When you have your health, what do you truly have? I want to dig into that piece because this is something that I truly don't think a lot of women even think past. They just think, oh, it's a number on the scale. And yet so many times I have women say, I just want to be healthy. But when you have your health, what does that actually mean? What is that going to do for you? And I want to shed some light on that. And then we cycle. Literally have these loops and these cycles and things. And I never realized it until this was really more brought to my attention in my life. And then what do you want instead and why? We're going to pull this all together. So sit back. This is going to be a good one. They're all good ones, right? And another thing that I wanted to do is I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone who has listened to these from the beginning, who has hung with me over 100 episodes, who is new and is listening for the first time. If you like the podcast, give it a 5-star rating. That helps more women see this. And if you love what you hear today, if you've enjoyed it, if it's been helpful, share it. Share it with another woman. It is so simple to take this literally on our phone and share it and send it over. And that's how the show can grow, how more women can get exposure to me. And it's something that if something is helping you, want other women to win and to feel and have the experience of some of these words and some of these things that I say and bring to light to women. You know, it's no secret to me that this is my calling. This is something that I firmly believe in, and that I want to see women win on an entire other level. And like, I want women to win when it comes to finances, their career, their relationships, just life. And I know it always has to start first with her health. She's got to feel good in her own skin. This doesn't mean you have a six-pack, you're skinny mini, but what it means is you've adopted a lifestyle of personal responsibility and taking care of yourself. So let's dig into this topic. Why do we need this mindset of can't stop, won't stop? Now, here's the deal. You are a woman, and if you're a man listening to this, totally cool. But here's the deal. This podcast is for women. And so this can't stop, won't stop attitude, why the heck do we need it? We need it because things get tough, things are challenging, problems present themselves, and I know I'm preaching to the choir right now, right? And reasonably speaking, if you've been on this earth for a decent amount of time, you have experienced something in your life. Now, I want you to think about when it comes to kids, grandkids, your own child, someone else's child, when you think about, something with that child, let's say something, happened or they desired. I mean, we figure out how to help that child. And I'm curious that, okay, if you're willing to go to all lengths for our children, our grandchildren, which we will, right? Or maybe it's for your mother or your partner, your spouse, right? Like for a loved one, we will go to all lengths to make sure that they are well, they are taken care of, everything is good. Why don't we do that for ourselves? It's mind-blowing how many women put themselves on the back burner. And I think there's a lot to it, right? Like we feel selfish if we, I have talked to women time and time again, if they take time to go to the gym, they've got to like reorganize everybody's whole life. They've got practice, they've got, car shuttling kids here, there, and everywhere. That's going to put more pressure on my husband in the morning. Here's the thing that I will tell you. If you will just communicate to your husband what you need and what you want, do you think he's going to say, nah, babe, don't take care of you? No, I'm not taking care of the kids, or I'm not doing X, Y, and Z. I'm venturing to say that he is never going to say, come on, babe, are you sure you really need to take care of yourself? I asked this to Tony one time. I said, would there ever be a scenario where you were like, no, don't do that self-help, that course, that, whatever, something that was going to better myself, get me more healthy, exercise. And I started thinking about it because I do spend an exuberant amount of time on the weekend going and getting my steps in and doing some self-care, whether it is sauna or cold plunge. Now, in his defense, he does it too. And it's almost one of these unwritten codes. And obviously, we're in this field. This is our thing. This is what we do. But I have never thought twice about saying, hey, honey, I'm going to go out for my walk. I'm going for my run. Hey, I'm going to be in the sauna for 20 and I'm doing a cold plunge for 2. I've never thought, hey, is that cool? Is it okay that I take that time for myself? And I realize that we are 100% on the same page when it comes to these goals. And I can appreciate that not all partners and spouses are on the same page. But I will tell you that even if your partner or spouse is not on the same page, I guarantee if you model a behavior and a mood, a mindset, a way of life, he can't help but follow, okay? And that's speaking to the women who are taking care of themselves and maybe their husband isn't 100% on board, okay? Because there's definitely that camp of women that I talk to. Now, there's also the camp that if he's telling you not to take care of yourself, I'm just going to 100% sincerely like question, hey, is this a good relationship? And so hopefully this isn't completely stirring things, but the deal is you want a partnership that is going to be there for you. And so what we have to do is we have to have this mindset of can't stop, won't stop. What do I need to do to take care of myself? That when I take care of myself, anything that I desire is possible. Because when you take care of yourself, you have a clear mind. You feel good in your own skin. Your clothes fit really well, and you exude this confidence. You'll see it when you're performing at your job. You may not realize, but think about how many times have you sat at your job and you're just like, oh my God, I am so exhausted. Well, reasonably speaking, you probably didn't sleep well the night before. I guarantee maybe you put some garbage in your body, or, maybe you've been chronically getting sick over and over and over again. There's so many things that could lead into that if you would just take a little more time to care for yourself, meaning drink good water, sleep a fair amount of hours that is helpful for you, eat reasonably well, move your body enough, but not too much, right? So there's a lot that can go into this. So what happens is your quality of life goes to a whole nother level. I will never forget one of the very first jobs that I had was definitely in a cubicle farm. And everyone was basically on headsets, sitting at computers, and we had those short desks where pretty much you were talking at your neighbor. And I never understood. I was like, what is the deal with this? Like, I can hear you, you can hear me, we're both on the phone, and this is weird. Okay, cool. But anyways, I sat in that office and I remember just taking it in. Majority of the people were overweight. The cool person had a candy drawer. Everybody loved pizza day at work. And I remember everybody went out to lunch together, right? And that's how you got promoted. I remember going to some of those lunches because that's what you did to get advanced in this career. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to fit in. But I remember going to some of those lunches and they would go to Italian or Mexican. And I mean, this is lunch. So think about, putting a heavy pasta meal in your body, or, having chips and salsa and guac and all the goodies at a Mexican restaurant. Think about what happens in that afternoon once everybody's kind of settled back into their workstation. And I mean, I literally would just see productivity just go. And I remember like, hey, why don't we just go for a walk? Hey, do you want to pack your lunch? Let's go out on the picnic tables and go for a walk around. They had a bunch of retention ponds, and it was actually really pretty setting. And I remember that was like so weird. It was so weird. Like, why would someone go do that? And so I think about how much this impacts everything that you do. When you don't have your health, that is all you think about. All you think about is, oh my gosh, what's going on here? What is this diagnosis going to be? How do I navigate this? Scared, fear, frustration, right? So I want to pull this back to this, why we have to have this mindset. We have to have this mindset because come hell or high water, we're going to get this figured out. The problem is we have tried so many different things, and we have maybe succeeded at some, or you know what, I could never do that said diet again. Like, I did it, I saw the weight loss, put it back on, and there's no way that I could do this again. There's a lot of people that sit in that camp. And what I'm here to tell you is every time you do a program, try a different diet, get the opportunity to learn. Get the opportunity to learn a little bit more, what works, what doesn't work. It was very interesting today in our gym. I was doing an assessment on two gentlemen that do not work out at our facility. They just wanted to come in and do an in-body scan and kind of see what their progress was. And it was fascinating to me because they have a certain level of health that they desire, and they are trying like hell to see these results. And I could tell that they were frustrated. So they had seen some body fat reduction, but not as much as they desired. And I said, well, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing, because my heart is like, oh, okay, well, what are you doing? Maybe I can make some tweaks and you guys have everything that you need. Well, I started realizing that these guys have literally been Googling every single program. They have been looking up macros. One article says this, the other article says that. And I was like, hey guys, here's what you need to focus on. And it just kind of blew their mind that in 2 seconds, I could listen and hear everything that they were doing. And I was like, oh, no, we're focusing on the wrong things. You're doing a lot of right things. What was really cool is each of them had put on a good 8-10 pounds of lean tissue, which is actually very impressive on their own. But I could tell that they wanted more. And so in my mind, I was like, man, these guys have the attitude. Can't stop, won't stop. The problem is they're getting a lot of misinformation. And that's what can happen in this industry is we get so frustrated, so burnt out of trying so many different things. I mean, think about your industry that you're in here today. Whether you're in a career, whether, you're taking care of the kiddos, like think about your specialties in life. Like I joke about this, and I may have said this on a previous podcast, but I am the worst cookie maker under the planet, which is not surprising because I don't eat cookies. But here's the deal. I am terrible, but I guarantee with enough time, effort, and energy spent, and maybe a little more Google searches, I'm sure that I could figure out that I'm probably not doing a step correctly. An ingredient is too cold or too warm or something. Now, here's the deal. I don't really care that I make beautiful, perfect cookies because if I did, I would want to eat them, right? But it's the same way with your health, your fitness, is we can't stop, won't stop, except for if we're getting really bad information. And that is one of the things that I truly, truly want to talk into is that there's a ton of misinformation. There's a ton of competing information. You can literally Google something and something will say exactly the opposite. And so that's where I want to speak into, okay, well, what are the beliefs that we have that hold us back? And for a lot of us, when we have tried to take care of ourselves, we've tried to see results, we maybe saw results, put it back on, or, I've tried so many programs and everything failed. We get in this mindset of, man, there is no way. I cannot do this again. I cannot fail one more time. And think about it. When you start interviewing for jobs, and you get that no, we took a different candidate, someone had more experience, it's one of the most crushing experiences. But the thing that you have to remember is every single no gets you closer to a yes. The same thing happens in sales. When we're looking at sales, it truly is a numbers game. And so it's enough no's turn into yeses. Enough times waking up and getting after it again gets you to the right yes. And I'm a firm believer in that when it comes to finding a coaching program or finding someone to help you, is sometimes you have to go through enough things that, man, this was just the right fit. It was the right thing that helped me. And that's where that can't stop, won't stop attitude has to come in. Now, when we think about the things that maybe hold us back, there was a time when I truly and sincerely did not love who I saw in the mirror. I was very frustrated. I was very panicked. On a daily basis, my skin would crawl. And I was just in this really terrible season of life. And I look back, and I actually look back and go, well, girl, you survived. But then I was like, was it really that bad? At the time, it was. It was absolutely the hardest freaking things that I had ever gone through. And I'm sure that you have these times too in your life where you look back and you're just like, holy moly, I would rather never go through that again, right? But there were things that you learned. There were questions that you had of yourself. We become extremely resourceful when our back is against the wall. The thing that we want to consider is not getting that far, not putting your back against the wall. But I can tell you just from my own personal experience that I tend to perform really well when the back is against the wall. Now, I'm working on that because typically you don't want to get to that point. But think about that with your health. Have you gotten your back against the wall where you said, okay, this is do or die, like literally do or die, and I've got to do something about it? So here's the thing. Don't need to get all the way there for you to see results. But sometimes when you have no choice but to move forward in a certain direction, it's what you need. So I'm not saying that we need to get ourselves to our back against the wall, but it's something to really think about. If this was it, if this was the last ditch opportunity, what would you do differently? Think about this. If you were going completely belly up, let's say finances were depleted, everything was just a wreck, I guarantee you would get real resourceful. The same way with your health. You want to treat this like, okay, this is do or die. Let's get after it. And you want to give yourself one option, and that's to win. You have one option that no matter what emotion you're feeling, scared, frustrated, you're going to move forward and you're going to find out the best possible path. It's when we sit waffling and not knowing what we want. This is one of the most challenging spaces of our life. That indecision literally will kill us. And I see it so many times with women. So many times I will talk to them, kind of see where they're at. They've experienced a lot of things, frustration. And then, for example, let's say they were interested in my coaching program, helping them lose weight and gain confidence. And it comes to the point where there's a price. And there's always going to be a price, no matter what. And when we get to that point of the conversation, the women who, yes, let's go like yesterday, I know, like they got this. There's nothing that's going to stop them. They have made their mind up before they even got on this call. There's another camp of women that say, oh, okay, that's how much it costs. Okay. And they pause, contemplate, and they need a second. They need a second to think about it. Typically, they're looking for a partner or a spouse to just, hey, babe, you deserve this. Let's go. And that's all she needed. Or, hey, yeah, that's a scary number, but you know what? You're worth it. Let's go. Right? And truly, some people just need to sleep on it. I truly believe that. And I'm never one to twist someone's arm, because if it's a right fit, it's a right fit. But then there's another camp of women that go, oh, no. Yeah, no. How much? Really? Oh. And then that call ends real quick. And then I know that every day that goes by, like the likelihood of that woman saying yes is pretty minimal. And listen, I've been doing sales for like 20 years now, and it's all good. And I never even look at it like sales. It truly isn't sales to me. It's truly, is this woman ready for her life to be changed? If so, saddle up, Sally, and let's go. But I want to speak into that woman that is feeling these limiting beliefs, like, oh my God, can I really do this? How could I spend that kind of money on myself? And here's the thing, it doesn't matter if it's $100 or if it's $100,000. There's a point where women will either invest in themselves or not. Okay, so there comes a point where we have to determine our own worth. Are we worth it? That is something to lean into. If you're getting stirred, if you're feeling like, I don't know if I'm worth it, right? Or have you had situations where you go, okay, could I really do that? Right. And so we have to really understand, what are these talk tracks, these thoughts that kind of lurk in that subconscious mind that say, now, girl, you can't do this. Or think about it this way. If you've been trying to lose weight and you just can't seem to move the needle forward, there's something that's blocking. There's a belief system that, man, I don't deserve my results. I can't have my results. I don't have the willpower for my results. There's something there, and it's worth exploring into. And so I want you to get wildly curious. If you feel these feelings, and here's the thing, you may say, hey girl, I'm totally cool. Like, I listen to this podcast, it fires me up, it gets me going for my day, and I'm all good. And that's exactly where I want you to be, right? But I'm venturing to think too, if you're listening to this podcast, that stuff has stirred you and you're questioning some things, going, man, why does this keep creeping in? Even myself, to this day, I am still working through. And what's cool is every time I uncover something, it's like a whole nother avenue opens up. I mean, I have shared this before where I absolutely hated posting on social media. I felt so cheesy. Why would anyone want to see this? But when I started really shifting my perspective, saying, hey, if I don't post this on social media, then I'm not going to impact that one person. That's truly being in alignment and knowing what you want. I know that I want to impact more women. So posting that little post on Facebook, who cares? That could be the one post that pushed someone over the line to change their life. So who am I to not post that post? It's okay for us women to get more vocal about what is important in our life and standing up for what we believe in. So what beliefs do you have that are potentially holding you back from having this can't stop attitude and getting after the things that you want in life? If you've always wanted to own your own business and you're not taking the steps, lean into that. What's going on there? What's happening? Well, Arin, I don't have the finances. Cool. What do we need to do to get the finances? If it's a matter of just logistics and tactical things, make your hit list and get it going. Maybe it takes you a year. Maybe it takes you 2 years. I'll never forget starting our very first business in our gym. And we started that business with $11,000 and some hope and a couple clients from the gym. And you know what? It grew really, really quick. So be careful what you wish for. But think about that. If something you desire and you want is hanging out there, but there's an emotion hanging around that, I want you to really get curious and figure out what can you learn so that you can move forward in that. And so let's talk about when you have this attitude that like nothing's going to stop you. I'm going to get after my goals. I'm going to tackle my health goals. I'm going to eat the way I need to eat. I'm going to do the steps. I'm going to do the workouts. I'm going to practice breathing, mindset, all the things to keep you in a really good headspace. What do you truly have when you have your health? So from my perspective, when you have your health, you have everything. You have freedom. You have freedom to choose whatever it is that you want to do. I tell women all the time that we got to be in weight loss mode, get it done. And then after that, you do have more play. I was talking with a client and we were discussing exactly how she's been eating. And she was like, well, okay, now that I've hit my goal, what is my play? And this is where it does get a little more number driven. And what's cool is we have all this data and we understand, okay, reasonably speaking, every day she burns between 1,400 and 1,700 calories. So in theory, we can bump her calories up close to those numbers. And if she stays within those numbers, in theory, we will not gain weight. Okay. And then we understand what it took to get her to the weight loss. Therefore, we know this is exactly how you need to eat if we need to buckle down, get a couple pounds off, and not let ourselves slip back. Okay. The problem is if we haven't changed who we became in this process, that's when you go right back. This is where I see so many times, obviously you guys are going to know, anytime someone is wanting a quick fix will always slide back. There's no way, any shape or form, that you will not repeat or loop or cycle the behavior because you didn't learn about being the person that it takes to be X number on the scale, or X percentage of body fat, or X size in clothing, right? And I'm using that because those are tangible metrics that we can use. So when you have your health, you can do anything. You walk around with a little bit of a different air of confidence. I see this in our gym all day, every day. The women who feel really good about themselves, they lift. They get after it. They feel so good, maybe a little hesitant on some weight, but you know what? They attack the bar and we get after it. But when I see a woman, especially when she first comes in, she's uncomfortable in her own skin and everything is new. Never back squatted a day in her life. What's a deadlift and bench press? Seriously, I thought just boys do that. So that woman, I know, reasonably speaking, what's going on in that head. There's a lot of fear, a lot of self-doubt. When you feel good in your own skin, you're going to try different things. You're going to see what else you can do, and that's a good thing. I also know when you walk in a room differently. Feel good. Think about any time you've worn an outfit, and I know this is getting super vain, but you wore an outfit that you're like, you know what, I think I look pretty darn good. You walk a little bit differently. Feel different. So I want to think about how this impacts everything. When you don't have energy at the end of the day and you got kids or grandkids saying, "Mommy, play with me." I mean, it absolutely breaks your heart to say, "Honey, I'm tired. Not now. Wait a little bit later. I'll play with you," right? And then you never do. I mean, I'm only saying this because I've experienced it myself when I didn't feel good in my own skin. And so what we want to consider is, when you have your health, what does that truly mean for you? Really define this. Sit with this and ask yourself these deeper questions. Because when you have your health, you can go hike, can do adventures on vacation, can fit in the roller coaster and ride that if you desire. I cannot tell you how many times someone has told me, "I don't fit in the plane. I have to get an extender. It's embarrassing." I cannot tell you how many times I've had someone say, "I can't ride the roller coaster. I'm over the limit." And these are things that impact you, and they impact the loved ones around you. Can you imagine when that's not even a thought? I didn't even know that was a thing, to be completely frank, until I had clients tell me this. And I was like, oh, dang, I gotcha. When you have your health, you have freedom. You have freedom of choice. You're not reliant upon anyone. And that's a good thing. Too many people are worried about, for example, our government to save them. And I will be genuine, in the pandemic, I did go, okay, well, they're going to take care of us. And naive me did not realize a lot of the things going on, which I'm very much head out of the sand and fully present in what's going on in our world. And it's a little scary, quite frankly. And this is, again, why you need to have your health. And I'm just saying this as a public service announcement that no matter what happens, put your best leg up when you are in really good health. You're going to give yourself a better chance no matter what circumstance comes your way. I talked with a client one time and she was like, I don't get into this whole zombie cannot say the word apocalypse. And she goes, but if that happened, I wouldn't be able to outrun them. And I'm like, all right, that's your goal. We got to outrun the zombies. I'm just kidding. But you think about this stuff. You think about, if your life was in danger, could you protect yourself? that is something that has always been extremely important to me. That if I ever found myself in a situation that I could get out of it, and that requires strength. I am vertically challenged, and I need to know that I could put up the best fight I could possibly put up, or I could run as fast as I could run, right? And I think it's important, and this is not to be all freak and doom and gloom, but again, you want to give yourself the best chance at anything that could go down in your life. I think about too, after having kids, it's one of those things where now I got to protect them. And I'm just like, holy moly, it was enough to take care of myself. Now I got 2 people looking at me. Woo! But here's the deal. Now you've got other ones looking to you to help. And, here's the deal. Like, as much as we want to look to the men in our life, we got to be able to take care of ourselves too. Okay. And I take a lot of pride in being able to lift things and move things. And, maybe I'm a little prideful and boastful on that, but it feels good to not be weak. It feels good to be strong and healthy and know that, what, reasonably speaking, that's pretty heavy, but you know what? I think I can get it moved. So comes in handy when you're rearranging furniture. So why then, if we have all these desires and we know that having our health is like the best flippin' thing ever, right? Why do we cycle? Why do we loop and repeat? Why do we gain weight? And the reason I want to bring this into this conversation today is because when you lose weight, have to become this new version of you. If you lose weight super quick and you did something that, I'll tell you what, you couldn't do it for the rest of your life, it's just a cycle. You're looking for a quick fix. You're looking for something to be the savior when you need to be your own savior. To take care of yourself and realize, like, I can do this and I am willing and able to change the trajectory of my life. That's how important this is. Every time I have someone say, my goal is to be healthy, I have to dig on them. Tell me why. Why is that important to you? And everybody has a little bit of a different version, but just saying you want to be healthy is fine. It's a start, but we've got to take it deeper and understand, like, how does this truly impact us? Because if we don't turn into this woman that we desire, we'll go right back. We'll repeat old behaviors. Because that's the thing. Anytime I coach a woman in my program, is I know that they're becoming a different version of themselves. And so many times I've had women say, so this is it. We're just going to like eat better, walk, drink water, sleep. And I'm like, yeah, I wish it was that simple. I really do. We're actually going to dig more into your noggin than you realize. And that's a good thing. And, for any of my clients listening to this, are going to absolutely be laughing, and they know it's true, is we got to do the really important inner work of why, we let other people dictate our food, or why, in this scenario or that scenario, you can't quote unquote have willpower. And it's really not about having willpower. It's truly stepping into this version of you, and it's having that desire that, like, man, I do want my body to look a certain way. I do want my girlfriends to be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I do want someone to look at me and say, dang, okay, do. Because it's a conversation starter too. And I will tell you, the fittest person in the room, like, let's just say you're networking. Most people go straight to that person. Just check me on this. Go into any networking event. And I do a lot of networking. Like, the person who is the fittest person in the room, that is typically where people are drawn, go to, talk to 9 times out of 10. Okay. I can't say that's always, because sometimes it's just, there's an expert in the field. People know who they are, celebrity, whatever. But I will tell you, that person does get looked at differently. And you can say it's wrong, right to judge, but everybody judges. It is what it is. Okay. And so we cycle when we haven't truly become this new version. And what you may be thinking is, okay, Arin, I hear you. Man, I don't see her. And I'm going to tell you that's okay too. I have been there multiple times where I was like, man, and even in this time and space that I'm recording this podcast today, there is a version of Arin that I'm scared to death to become, that she freaks my you-know-what out. And I know that if I keep playing small, that I'm never going to get there, and I'm always going to be frustrated, and I'm never going to truly see the impact that I desire to have. And so I am leaving a huge disservice by not putting myself out there more, by not taking myself to another level, by not visualizing and seeing. I used to always say, and you guys are all going to laugh, but if you don't know who Tony Robbins is, but he's a really big self-help guru and just crazy amazing person. And obviously I've followed a lot of his stuff over the years. And I always said, I want to be the female Tony Robbins, because I just didn't feel there are some women, right? There's Brene Brown. I'm totally blanking right now, like Oprah. But think about how many amazing women have been leaders, and you probably could spit 20 of them at me, and maybe I just have been, fitness is definitely a more male dominated industry, and that's what I've been mostly exposed to. But when you think about it, there's not a lot of women that are out there in the forefront, and that's a lot of reasons. There's just absolutely a lot of reasons for that. But I know what ends up happening is we hold ourselves back, and there's a reason for that. There's a program, there's a thought process. For me, I was never stretching myself enough. And I remember just hearing the words, Arin, isn't this enough? And it was said by loved ones, or you always have to have things that are just nicer than what most people. And again, said by loved ones with the utmost respect, right? And I've always desired more. I've always desired that next level. And sometimes I didn't even know what that was. And not necessarily just tangible things, but just okay, what else is possible? What else could we do? How else could we impact? And this is a really good trait to have, but it will drive you freaking batty some days, because you're never settled. And that's okay too. So the important part of this entire process of can't stop, won't stop as an attitude is we have to actually dig into, man, what have I been leaving on the table? What else could I do? Could I lead that team? Could I open that business? Could I go for that role? Could I completely change companies and start working in this capacity? Could I go from this salary to that salary? That's a big one. That rubs most of us the wrong way. I will never forget when I interviewed for a job. I actually didn't get the job. A gentleman got the job. I ended up getting a contract job, and then I ended up outperforming the gentleman that got the job that I didn't get, if you're tracking this. And then they ended up letting him go and then brought me in, and they paid me $20,000 less. And that one stung. So the only difference was male, female. So that one stung. So what if went after what you actually wanted? And what if it scared the hell out of you? What if? What if you visualized yourself being strong, vibrant, full of life, having so much energy, feeling so good in your own skin, rested, ate well, cooked amazing meals? What if? What if you saw her? Think you would like her? I think you would. This is what you've got to get really, really intimate with, and understand that all day, every day, we're getting after this woman. We're going after her, and we can't stop, won't stop, no matter what happens in our life. And here's the deal. We're really good at excuses. We're really good at saying, well, this is happening or that is happening. I have coached enough women and men, but enough women that, man, I can spot different personalities a mile away. And reasonably speaking, I've gotten pretty good at navigating. The person that is the most challenging is the person that's always got a problem, always got this going on. Oh, but Arin, you don't understand. I've got this going on. The person that, always has the injury, the person that always has just, well, life is going sideways again. Now, here's the deal. I have been her, okay? So that's why I feel I can speak into this. And maybe you've been her. Maybe you're her right now. Here's the deal. If you can recognize it, you change it. The first part of this is we've got to understand, where am I sitting today? Where am I making excuses? I'm really, really good at excuses. I'm really good at justifying in my own head why this or that's going on. Something that I've gotten very, very in tune with is, what do I need to do instead? What actions are going to drive the ball down the field? What actions are ultimately going to get me to my results? Too many times I wouldn't start a project if I knew I couldn't finish it. That's crazy, right? Because some things are going to take more time. Think about that with weight loss. We don't start the process because we don't get the instant result. No, it's going to take time. Know that we're going to have to make changes and it's going to get uncomfortable. We already know. Think about it this way. Would you not do the procedure that your doctor told you to do that you absolutely needed because you didn't want to have to do the recovery? I mean, that kind of sounds silly, right? Like, hey, it's going to suck for a little bit, but if you do these things day after day after day after day after day, you're going to come out better in the end. But how many of us have held off on the surgery? How many of us have held off on truly becoming who we deserve to be because we didn't want to have to do the process? Here's the cool thing, and I'll pull this all together here today, is the process is really not that bad. Most things in life are not as bad as we perceive them to be. And what does bad mean? What does hard mean? What's hard to you is not hard to me. Deadlifting 185 pounds is not a big deal to me. It feels great. But for some women, that's like, what? No. So think about that in perspective. What was once hard for you is now easy for you. I think about that all the time. Public speaking, I used to shake in my shoes. My throat would cut off. I would squeak in my voice. And now it's one of my most favorite things to do. I have given keynote speeches at national conventions for companies. I've stood on stages with thousands of spectators and televised across a company television. I mean, but it took putting in the reps. And that's what I'm going to leave you with here today is this can't stop, won't stop attitude requires you to do the reps. Sometimes we got to do more reps than we really want to do. Anybody do a program with 12 to 15 reps? Yeah, it sucks. I hate that all day, every day. 6 to 8, under 6, totally got that all day, every day. So just remember, the more reps you put in, the better you get. The quicker you put in the reps, the easier it becomes. This is no different if you were doing cold sales calls. The more no's you got, the more times people hung up on you, the more times you can just laugh and just move on to the next number. Guess what? Pretty soon there's going to be a yes. Pretty soon there's going to be someone that says, yeah, I did want to talk to you today. So think about putting in the reps and that you've got to have this mindset of, I can't stop, I won't stop, because this is who I am. I am this woman. I maybe can't see her perfectly, but every single day I get a little bit closer and a little bit closer. And I promise you, at the end of all of this, if there ever is really an end, let's just put that out there, you're going to love who you see. You're going to love the freedom. You're going to love the choice. You're going to love that literally you have the Midas touch. Everything you touch turns to gold. And it started by you taking care of yourself and valuing yourself enough to say, I'm worth it. And I'm going to take the time and effort to get myself in a really, really good place. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please share it. Please give it a 5-star rating. It takes literally 2 seconds. Just helps more women see this. And here's the deal. You can't stop. You won't stop. Go get them.